Hi, welcome to my channel, which actually hosts the poetry vlog. I have several introductions to the poetry vlog. This is the fall 2018 edition. I'm making this at the end of October. There are a few quick updates as well as an overview of what you'll find here. So weekly to bi-weekly, I still post interviews and guest appearances with different types of writers, authors, artists, community activists, folks who do things that seem tangentially related to poetry, such as therapy, or maybe they work at like a local coffee shop. And we talk about how poetry and pop culture intersect with their daily lives to create livability in an increasingly hostile political climate. And in particular, as a doctoral candidate, and you'll read in my bio, I focus on gender studies, sexuality studies, race studies, diaspora, and I look at ecological crises such as water shortages in Flint or Detroit through a lens of queer and racial livability. So every podcast and every YouTube episode is dedicated to looking at ways that poetry already intersects with our daily lives and intersects with pop culture, to name the conditions for livability and lovability, and to find ways into a more unconditional livability and lovability for one another. So it's very woo, it's very hopeful, but it's also very historically critical. And part of the reason that this entire project started for me is that I am a professor and instructor as a doctoral candidate here at the University of Washington in Seattle. And I noticed that a lot of the podcasts I found, while incredible, and I'll do an episode on them soon, were very much insider language. So either insiders for scholars or insiders for poets. When I was teaching undergrad poetry, I'm like, man, we really need short form audio and visual content that's extremely accessible, that both like a poet and a scholar would understand, learn, and engage with, but also someone who finds poetry intimidating but wants to learn more would find accessible, entertaining, and engaging. So thus the poetry vlog was born. During the academic year, I try to post weekly. It comes out to more like bi and tri-weekly for the guest interview, but there's also the podcast version. The podcast offers anything on here in just audio-only version for folks who are more on the go or prefer podcasts, especially slightly older demographics, but it also has a little bit of additional content. So sometimes I'll post podcast-only bonus episodes, which I'll signal from now on here so that the YouTube followers can also catch those. Something else that's on the daily podcast is every weekday, Monday through Friday, roughly, sometimes I skip a day, I post a 2-minute or less poetry reading, and poetry defined very loosely. They're called flash briefings because you can access them through Amazon Alexa. So if you're someone who has the creepy Alexa, you can definitely check this out every day by being, hey Alexa, what's my flash briefing poetry reading? And she'll play what the poem that day is for you, not in her own voice, in the voice of myself or the poet's reading. So we have flash briefings, we have weekly to try to bi-weekly, depending on the academic time of year. Guests range from, I think I might be interested in poetry, but I'm not sure, to very well-established, award-winning, kind of famous poets and artists. And then the other element that I think is really fun is Patrick and pop culture. Since he's a sound studies background, we break down pop music and why it's catchy. And then I bring my own cultural studies lens in and talk more about the lyrics. And then Patrick, who's also a poet, an amazing poet, and a scholar, then has a conversation with me and we read the lyrics closely. So just to recap, here you'll find the different episodes that I use, initially created just for teaching, but it's open access, so it's free, and it makes some of the higher education poetry and cultural studies content that I would normally teach in the literature department, cultural studies department, or creative writing department available to you on the YouTube, as I call it, because I'm still learning. You'll also find links to the podcast where you can get your weekday flash briefing poetry readings. You'll also find that there's audio podcasts that are bonus episodes, not necessarily fully covered here. And then you'll also find here the regular features with Patrick, which I think are just a blast, and it's just Patrick and pop culture. All right, finally, I want to flag all of the ways you can reach out to me and follow along. First of all, of course, like and subscribe if you can to the videos. I would love to, within the next 3 years, reach that 1,000 mark, because then I can create a customized URL. So if you can, and if you like it, subscribe, like, it would be very helpful for the channel. You can also reach out to me at chelseagrimmer.com, and you'll notice various contact buttons. I'm open to collaborators. I love collaborating. I love when people I don't know are willing to be on the vlog. It just creates exciting conversation. And then you'll also notice that there's a submissions area. If you have a poet you want me to cover, a book you want me to cover, a pop culture icon you want me to cover, you can submit that. If you want to join me to converse about those things, you can submit that. And finally, this is where some poets may be really interested. The poetry vlog is a publication. It's just an audio and an audio-visual publication. And we are currently open to submissions for audio files wherein you read your own work, and that counts as a poetry publication. So if you want to be one of the flash briefing readings and you want to read it in your own voice, you want me to read it for you, that would be one way for you to get published through a not print-based or expensive medium, and I'd be more than glad to put it together. And we have some new collaborations coming up, like Shirley Magazine's incredible magazine based out of Portland for mostly like hybrid fiction poet writers, for instance. They'll be submitting flash briefing readings when solicited from the editors, and that's one of the collaborations I'm doing. So that's the poetry vlog. Welcome to the channel. If you've been keeping up this far, I hope that update number 3 is helpful and you're seeing how I'm learning the different mediums. Feel free to reach out to me for anything, but otherwise just like, subscribe, follow the podcast, follow the YouTube channel, and keep me posted with your thoughts and opinions. I always love to hear feedback, even when it's negative. All right, I hope you all have a wonderful day.